Okay. Hi, so I'm Erin Hoffman-John, and I come from Carnegie Mellon University's ETC program, and we come from the future, the ETC does. We're very lucky to be able to set master's students at attacking problems in design that we think will be dominant technologies in 2 to 3 years. So ETC comes from the future, but I come from the past. This is a text-based game called Dragon Realms, and also one called Pern Mush. These were connected learning online communities that taught me to be a game designer when I was 15 years old. I went on to then do about 16 years in games, and then come back to teach. So what people will tell you about text-based games, this is Zork, and these are the many ways that you can be killed by a GRU. And people who remember these games mainly remember that they fought with the parser. It was this constant, like, trying to remember the right thing to type at the right time, and usually you died. But the games were really magical when they did work, because when you did communicate with a computer in a way that the computer communicated back, it felt magical, almost like this sort of telekinetic connection to an author who had created this, and you thought to do the thing that the author wanted you to do. So that makes me think of these things. These are in-home devices where you talk to it, it talks back, and usually you're trying to find the magic word, and it's really frustrating. So I thought that maybe we could take this technology and actually apply some very old game design techniques to it. But in my sort of to explain, I will throw a text parser at almost any problem. This was a history game that I made with Matt Farber for 6th grade. There he is, yeah, to teach about the revolution. And also my friend Christina Woodkey, who when we taught undergrads using Inform said, I think you could use that on voice command interfaces. So when I got to Carnegie Mellon, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to take voice command interfaces, throw them into VR, use Inform type text parser, really old design techniques, and kind of see what happened. And they said, that's a really weird idea, but I guess you can try to do that. So this was the team that we inflicted it on. Is Andrew here? You can actually play this in the tech showcase right after this, and I hope that you do. They made a cooking game of sorts where you communicate and collaborate with a robot. You have to teach the robot words for the alien fruits that they have, and then fulfill those orders for customers. We thought that you would be able to just take the Google Home, the Alexa, and throw it into Unity, and it would be fine. It was super not fine. They actually had to create a completely different tech stack. And the thing that's important to remember then if you're trying to do something like this is voice command isn't just one technology. It's actually 3 technologies. You have to first be able to, that's a little black, but you have to be able to take voice, turn it into text, then parse that text intelligently, and then render that text back out to speech. So that's actually 3 different things that you have to do.
Do you know what this is?
I don't know.
This is
It's an apple. It's an
Apple.
Say apple. Say
Apple.
Good.
Apple. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you give me the apple? Can you give me the apple? Thank you. Thank you.
So this was their first prototype. It was really magical, and people got really into it as soon as they were in the space. It actually made the VR experience about 10 times more immersive than VR already is. Because if you can't talk, you're going to feel lonely, and I think that's a big part of why VR experiences feel so lonely. But the girl was a bit of a trap. She was actually maybe a little bit too effective. I think this slide might be stuck, actually. Yeah, it's hung up on the end of the video. Oh, no. Yeah, I know. I guess I could just tell you a long story now, right? Yeah. But the prototype that they built was super effective, super fast, which was very surprising. But the girl was almost a little bit of a trap because she was really compelling. You emotionally connected with her right away. Oh, was I supposed to fix it? Okay. This is live testing. Okay, I think it's going to go back to what it was doing. So the students actually automatically created this experience where you're teaching an AI, and they weren't told to create something educational or even something that might be leveraged for education. Again, like I said, the girl was a little bit too effective because you connected with her, but then you kind of were able to quickly find the edges in the AI and realize that she wasn't real. So the students ultimately decided to change that character into a robot, which it might be more understandable from a user perspective that you couldn't really tell it the right things. These were some of the lessons that they took away. They really learned a lot about the affordances of English language in a fully digital environment, and also some really interesting things about player behaviors and social norms and when you would break a social norm and when you would kind of obey what the expectations were. The really important thing is that you can't separate language from context. If you try to have a context-free language interaction, you get gobbledygook. So you can't, if you're going to make a voice command experience or even any kind of text-based experience, you can't separate that design process from the creation of the environment in which it's going to take place. The other thing is that these technologies really aren't quite ready yet, and so we aim at the future. We knew it was going to be hard, and they just kind of suffered with it. But we do think that eventually it'll get there as each of these 3 technologies gets deeper and more advanced. So the other thing that VR is missing by nature is nonverbal cues, and we communicate so much through language without words. So, but one thing you can do in VR is actually pay attention to what the player is looking at. And if you branched your narrative and branched your text parser based on what the player was looking at, you could get a really immersive experience. They also created this debugging tool that when you speak, it actually prints out what you're saying. And that all by itself, I think, is a really interesting both learning and game experience where you're sort of painting with words without, you're not normally paying attention to what you're saying. And ultimately, they did create a teachable agent. And anybody who's familiar with Dan Schwartz's work knows that this is actually a really, really effective way to teach. So I think in addition to uncovering a way of making VR way more immersive and solving some affordance problems, they also found some new ways to teach. So again, with many thanks to the Sweet Talk team, and I hope that you go and play it in the tech showcase, that was their project. Yeah.